There's BS everywhere. You just find one that works for you, okay? There is no perfect workplace. There is BS everywhere, okay? And you're like, really? Yes, really. Let's talk about it. So, I have been asked by my students, how do you cope? You've been doing this for so long. How were you able to cope? For a long time, and since I've been a nurse, I have done a lot of PRNs. I guess that's one of my ways to cope with the BS. Because again, you get tired of a place and you just move on along. You don't have to see all these people every day or see all the things that kind of challenge you and mess with your mental health. But today's topic, what I want to talk about is perfect workplace. There is no perfect workplace. I can tell you that right now. Okay. So it doesn't matter if you move from one facility A to facility B, C, D, they all have BS. And why not? You're working with human beings. And even more women, I mean, women can be catty, women can be, and I know you're not going to understand this for those of you who don't want to, and I know you're not going to agree with me, but this is my opinion. Don't men give BS? Yes, they do, but I just think women sometimes just complicate things. I've worked with guys, I've worked with women, and I find that, please let me know what your opinion is. Women just I don't know. It just happens that way. Again, I'm a woman. That's not to say I'm not perfect. I keep telling people that I'm not perfect, but if you think if when you leave okay, let me put this in perspective for you. Say you work in a place and the DON there really doesn't like you, and the people are catty and they pick on you with everything that you do. They don't seem to appreciate you, and yada yada yada. And then you go to facility B. Well, I can tell you right now, it might not be I can get the words out. It might not be the DON, but it might be the unit manager who doesn't like you, who doesn't appreciate you, who picks on you all the time, and yada yada yada. And then you go to facility C. Well, guess what? It might not be the DON, it might not be the unit manager, it might just be your supervisor nurse on the floor, the charge nurse. Again, there is BS everywhere. You just need to find one that you can work with, okay, or that works with you. The thing about the healthcare system is that there are a lot of things that you don't agree with. Healthcare system, and when I say healthcare system, I'm talking hospitals, I'm talking assisted living, I'm talking home health, I'm talking nursing homes, I'm talking rehab centers. It doesn't matter. A lot of the times, management and the clinical part of health system kind of clash. And because they're night and day, you need to understand management is like directly under administration, which that's the business aspect of it. When you're on the floor, you are employed to take care of the patients. But what happens is, as much as you want to really be all gooey and nice and do all the things that book has taught you to do in your profession, it clashes with management because management is not seeing things the way you're seeing them. Management, first and foremost, whether you like it or not, is a business. And when you work in the healthcare system, you're going to hear things like this, like, oh, they just see these residents as dollar signs. Yes, it's not personal, it's business. Okay, now does that make it right? No. Now there are places you're going to work where just the way they run the place, you hate it. You just hate it. These residents really are nothing but dollar signs, and it just hurts you to see how they're treated, how things that concern their care is taken care of. I'm not saying abusing patient when I say they're treated. I mean how their care is treated. I've been in situations where people, there's nothing to work with, okay? You don't have enough things for dressings, supplies are missing, and then they expect you to be able to, and I've worked in some shitty places, I'm going to tell you right now. And I've worked in some great places that even though all the supplies are there, but then they don't treat this staff well. Okay, it doesn't matter what you say, you're just not treated as human because you're sitting there like no better than a servant. Okay, however, you have everything to work with. The residents or the patients are put on a pedestal because they're private pay and they paying out all this money, so you don't have a right to talk. Okay, and then I've been in those other places where there's no supplies. People don't return calls. Even doctors, they take their time to respond to the patients. Insurance runs out and they throw them out on the streets. And then there's BS everywhere. So if it's not management and staff, then it's within the staff where you go, there's a lot of gossiping, there's a lot of backbiting, there's a lot of cliquishness, and all that just undermines your job. Really, how can you be professional when I remember I worked in this place, this DON. I'm never going to forget this because she was a bully and she had a clique of girls. Okay, and they were the untouchables. You couldn't touch them. If they don't want to do a skill, they don't do it. Who are you going to report to? Well, when I started working there, and I actually came in through an agency, and I realized, of course, well, first of all, when you're coming in through an agency, they're going to throw you to the part that is like war zone. Okay, so I'm probably going to do a video about that because I have done agency. I've done agency work. Whoa, okay. But anyway, so I was working through this agency and I will get there and I find that in a floor where there should be 2 nurses, I happen to be the only one there. And the other nurse just was on the phone. She goes out. She wasn't doing what she was supposed to be doing. And that irritated me. And I thought it wasn't unfair. And I do remember one time just like, she was telling me, not knowing that I'm an OG in this, okay? I'd been working a while. And a young girl. And she's like, well, you're supposed to be doing this too. And I'm like, no, I'm not supposed to be doing it. She's like, well, that's what you're supposed to. Well, the DON said you should do it. And that's what they did. If you don't belong to that clique, they're just going to bully you like, you're supposed to be doing this, you're supposed to be doing that. And some nurses just suck it up and they do it or they leave. But I'm like, no, I'm not, and then I'm like, so I'm going to go tell the DON. So I didn't know that it was a cliquish family. So when I got there, she's like, oh, really? Oh, really? Did she do that? Well, the thing is, usually when you're on this wing and you're doing this treatment, she of course, she was supporting her girl. I'm like, no, I am not responsible for this patient. Now, if she's off the floor and she wants me to check some things, but I'm not going to take on her duties. She's like, that's how we do it here. I'm like, well, okay, I'm not going to do it. That's just putting my license on the line. She didn't like that. So I didn't do it. But I quickly caught on that, okay, this is what's going on here. That's the soundtrack, okay? That is the vibe. She's cliquish and she's got her girls. And then I quickly learned it. So when I would go there, another incident happened where I think it was this same nurse. I can't remember now. It's a long time ago. And then the DON actually asked to speak with me. So I went there and she's like, it seemed to me that every time you come here, we have an issue. I'm like, no, I don't have an issue with anyone. The issue is that the girl doesn't do her job and it's like there's no one to report to. And she's like, what do I mean? I'm like, well, I do remember an incident with this girl and I remember the stance you took. You were trying to tell me something that really by law, I really should not be doing it. And this time around it's happening again. And I find this is what she does. And everybody knows, but you don't do anything about it. She's like, no. I will not be accused of not doing my job. I'm like, well, if part of doing your job is putting other nurses over some other nurses, then that's not doing it right, And I also got to know that she bullied the administrator because, again, she being a female, he was a male. of a Caucasian persuasion, and she was an African American woman. And I'm just gonna keep it real, okay? Because that's eventually what it was. He couldn't talk. I mean, this was before Me Too. This was before Black Lives Matter. Right? This is something like 11 years ago, okay? So we didn't have it. So please just work with me here. Listen to what I'm saying. Because as an African American woman, I can tell you right now that I have suffered or I have been at the receiving end of racism, sexism, and what have you, so, but that's not what we're talking about. I'm just trying to keep it real. For those of you who are listening now and thinking, why would she say that about this? But that's what he was. He could not talk. And when he did talk, they pulled the black card on him. And I thought that was unfair. I thought he was in over his head. But that's what they did. They ruled. She ruled the place. And I told her off. I'm like, he's going to come back and hunt you. You need to understand that when you do things like this, because you have all these girls. Even her ADON, are you kidding? Her ADON was kissing her ass. Nothing was being done. I'm trying hard not to call the name of the facility, but eventually they all got fired. And I think they got in trouble. But you need to understand that, okay? People were not pulling the race card or the black card. But then there are people. I've worked in a place where the DON was white and she did not like the black nurses. So again, these things happen, okay? There is BS everywhere. You just find one that you can work with or that can work with you. You don't like it, you move to the next one. But I just need to let you know there is no perfect workplace. You need to understand that. For those of you that are coming into this industry, there's a lot of backbiting, there's a lot of backstabbing, there's a lot of cliquish behavior. You just need to know not to get involved in those things, and you just do your job, because eventually guess what happens? People who belongs to groups like that and those subgroups, they just end up cannibalizing each other, and they do. And somebody gets in trouble, or everybody gets in trouble, and your license on the line. It's not worth it. I hope you got some value from me talking about the workplace, because one of my students actually asked me, where's the perfect place? I hear all the stories. The stories out there, but you're not going because of the story. The stories are unique to healthcare, but then there's stories everywhere you go to work, even if you're not in the nursing field or in healthcare. So again, please hit the notification bell, like my video, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. It will mean a lot to me, okay? So until I see you in the next video, please be safe out there.